Good evening, guys. Welcome to another live where we're going to be looking at language paper 2 tonight, and more specifically, the question 5 that came up for this specimen paper, okay? So welcome to today's live. Today's live is going to be a rapid live, okay? I'm going to be moving at a fairly quick pace, so you're going to have to kind of keep up. So we're going to be looking at English language paper 2, but more specifically, question number 5, okay? This is section B in language paper 2. Let's quickly begin by recapping language paper 2. What does that mean? When it comes to language paper, remember that this is the non-fiction paper. Okay, and we're going to go over all 5 questions. So I'm going to do all 5 questions next Tuesday. Okay, not for this paper, but for a different paper. However, today we're going to be looking at question number 5. And remember, bear in mind that paper 2 is the non-fiction paper. You were given 2 extracts you've never seen before. One tends to be based, or rather not tends to be, is always based on the modern time. Okay, so it's like a modern text. It's non-fiction, so it's an autobiography, it's a memoir, it can be a letter, whatever. And then the second text you're presented with is a Victorian text, okay? Again, it can be a Victorian text, which is a memoir, a letter, autobiography, whatever it is, okay? You're given 2 extracts, you've got to read it, then answer 4 questions on it. And then question number 5, you're given a non-fiction exercise to write, okay? And with question number 5, which is what we're going to be looking at, you could either, and you need to be able to prepare to know how to write either a letter, an article, or a speech. Okay, so these are the main ones which you should anticipate writing about. And of course, you need to illustrate an awareness of form. What does form mean? It means if you're writing a letter, do you understand that you need to add address? Do you understand that you need to, and this is the address of the person that's receiving it? Do you show an understanding that you need to show the date? Do you also show kind of an understanding of how to lay out the letter? And then obviously signing off by saying kind regards, yours faithfully, yours sincerely, whatever, right? And then your name and surname. Article, in terms of form, headline, you've got your opening paragraph, first subheading, main points, second subheading, counter arguments, and then your closing concluding paragraph. Speech is different because you're talking to an audience, an imaginary audience, but you're writing it as if you're literally about to deliver it, right? So speech, you start off with ladies and gentlemen. If it's to fellow students, you say fellow students. Then you literally launch into your speech using pronouns like you, things that draw in your audience, you, we, all of that. And then closing by saying, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you learned something new, right? That's different types of form. However, remember that form is different, right? The layout of a letter to an article to a speech is different. However, the content, how you plan it, how you discuss whatever statement is given is literally the same. Because remember, you just literally start with your intro, your introduction, your opening introductory paragraph, right? Like letter, speech, or article, why you're writing the letter, why the article is being written, or whatever, right? Do you agree, do you disagree? Then you have your main points. So your main arguments as to why you disagree or agree with the main statement. Then counter arguments, you need to show an understanding and awareness of why people disagree with you. Don't just write a one-worded response, or rather one-sided response, okay? Then you finish off with your conclusion. However, at no point in a letter, article, speech do you start off with, to introduce my discussion, blah, 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 blah. Never end off with, in conclusion, okay? You start introduction with, saying there's many people who believe whatever the opposite perspective is. And then you say, but actually, I disagree, right? Letter, article, or speech. And then you have your main arguments, counter arguments, conclusion. This structure stays the same, okay? However, in a letter, you just have like a regular letter. In an article, you break up your main arguments and counter arguments, adding a subheading in between. And in a speech, you literally have like the whole speech. But the main thing, obviously, that changes is the form, right? You've got your ladies and gentlemen at the top, and then obviously you're thanking your audience, okay? This stays the same. So as I mentioned, guys, in today's live is going to move really rapidly, okay? So you're going to have to kind of, try to keep up with the pace as we're looking at question number 5 today up until 6:45 and no later, okay? So we're looking at English language paper 2. Remember, as I mentioned, this is a non-fiction paper. where you're given 2 extracts you've never seen before. You've got to answer 4 questions on them. And then obviously you've got to write for question number 5, a letter, article, or speech in response to a statement. A statement tends to be a topical issue, something that you have probably heard like in the radio, the news, or whatever, if you're familiar with what's going on in current affairs and even in past affairs, okay? Guys, by the way, a really efficient way of preparing for question number 5 is try to, I don't know if your parents like watch BBC News or listen to LBC, whatever, right? Try every so often to actually just tune in rather than completely tuning out so that you can kind of know what's going on, right? Because that helps you, your general understanding and general knowledge when it comes to question number 5, okay? Anyway, so let's quickly begin by recapping. This 1 hour, 45 minutes for paper 2. How does that work with regards to the entire paper? Of course, this 1 hour, 45 minutes is exactly the same as as language paper 1. However, you literally have to do double the reading. You're doing double the work for this paper. So it's a fairly challenging paper because you've got to work on your speed writing. In terms of timings, and this is especially useful for those of you who are doing your resets on the 2nd of November, for question number 1, or actually spend the first 10 minutes of the exam reading question paper and inserts. Yeah, in that order. First read the question paper, then the inserts. Then, after you're done, spend, for question number 1, which is a multiple choice question, spend around 5 minutes on this question. It's worth 4 marks. Question 2, question's worth 8 marks. Spend 10 minutes on this question. This is the question where you're asked to write a summary. You're writing your first summary comparing both extracts you're given. Then question 3, which is a language question. You're just looking at 1 extract. Usually it's the modern one. Spend 13 minutes on this question because it is worth 12 marks. But it's actually relatively easier because you've only got to talk about just 1 source, okay? Then question 4, this is in section A. This question is worth 16 marks. So spend 17 minutes on it. Okay, it's worth slightly less marks than question 4 in paper 1. Okay, question 4 in paper 2, you're working super hard for these 17 marks because you've got to compare both source A and source B, either differences or similarities, but you've also got to talk about methods, which is like techniques. Okay, then when you're done with those, you then move on to question number 5, which is what we're going to look at. Question 5 is the non-fiction letter, article, or speech question, where you illustrate an understanding of form, you illustrate an understanding of structure. And for question number 5, which is worth 40 marks, spend around 50 minutes on this question. Spend 10 minutes planning, 35 minutes writing, and then around 5 minutes at the end, checking. Okay, so that's the timing to bear in mind when it comes to the language paper 2 exam. However, guys, for those of you that are literally going to be doing your mocks, don't focus so much on timing, focus on getting things like technique right? So focus on knowing the difference between letter, article, speech, layout. Obviously, also focus on being able to literally see like an argument, a debate, whatever, and you show an understanding of how to frame your discussion, right? You need to be able to show, really convincing arguments. Also, when you're making your arguments, you obviously need to support it with made up anecdotes, made up statistics, and made up examples. Are all made up, but obviously don't like make them like completely like crazy, right? Don't talk about like aliens, you have an anecdote of one alien that did this, whatever, right? Because it needs to be kind of semi-realistic. Now with this is really important to include, because what you're showing is to make your article or letter or speech more convincing. You need to share anecdotes, statistics, examples to make your reader understand, your perspective, whatever, right? These are all made up, because your teacher and your examiner will understand you've literally, there's an infinite number of statements they can put in front of you, and you won't know like an infinite number of statistics, right? They just want to know that you understand when you're making an argument, you need to support it with anecdotes. You understand when you're making an argument, you support it with statistics and examples. Remember, anecdote is a really specific example of one person. You give the first name and the surname. You then say, oh, they faced this issue and this is how they overcame it, right? Anecdote, what that does is it adds color. It makes the reader like empathize. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize, and it really humanizes whatever you're talking about, right? When I say humanizes, it means like someone can really picture who, the person is affected and how they are affected by the statement. Statistics is the opposite of anecdotes, okay? But it's a good balance, because statistics is 50% of people who, did this result. Statistics is now, rather than anecdotes where it's really specific to one individual, statistics is like, okay, that could be one individual, but how about others, right? It tells you about general population. It's convincing because you're basically saying, oh, it's not only my perspective, I've actually got data to back that up, right? And then obviously examples is, for example, if I wanted to of different drinks, right? I can talk about Coke, Sprite, what other fizzy drinks are there? Gosh, I don't even drink that many fizzy drinks. Got Coke, Sprite, Fanta. That's another one. Fanta. That's a poor example, right? Because I don't even drink that stuff. But those are, for example, examples, right? All of these are made up, but you kind of obviously make them like semi-realistic. Your statistics don't say like 100% of people, because literally there's no statistic that shows 100% of people. There's always one black swan, okay? Remember that there's always going to be like one exception. So say stuff like, 65% or 55%. That's a nice kind of range in statistics. Anecdotes obviously say, Sally Smith thinks this or John Doe thinks that. Examples, obviously just give some examples, okay? Anyway, as I mentioned, guys, we're moving a little bit more rapidly today. Today is just 1 hour and we're trying to squeeze everything within this 1 hour. Hence why we're looking specifically at question number 5. And this is especially for the benefit of those who are doing the resets in November. But to be honest, actually, this is also going to be for your benefit if you're in year 11. Obviously, also your younger years, right? Year 10, year 9, and so on, okay? What we want to do is practice enough of these papers that any kind of question your teachers pick out from, all AQA's pack of resources, you'll be like, oh, I saw TikTok actually, and I know exactly how to answer it, right? Imagine. Can you believe you can learn on TikTok? Anyway, so guys, let's have a look at the statement that came up for this one, right? So obviously make sure you have your highlighter handy. Let's look at the statement. Festivals and fairs should be banned. Interesting statement. They encourage bad behavior and are disruptive to local communities. We kind of had this in a low level maybe 2 years ago or maybe a year ago when Carnival in London was postponed, right? It was seen as something that was really bad, spread COVID, etc., etc. Actually, to be honest, there's also this is now I'm showing you guys how you can think about it as a topical issue. Things like football, people getting together to watch football and stuff like that. There's always constant debates. Okay, hooliganism is a problem, littering is a problem, bad behavior, what people do. Even for example, the Pride events that happened in June and July, people, there were some people who said, no, it should happen in Soho. It encourages bad behavior. The reason why I'm mentioning this, guys, is because this is still a topical thing, right? This idea of festivals, even for example, wireless, right? So wireless, there's been lots of people who say, no, it's really bad. This happens. It encourages like really terrible bad behavior. So I think wireless happens in Finsbury Park in London. And I think there's maybe a wireless outside of London. But anyway, I don't know what goes on outside of London, guys. That's just, the forest for me. However, going back to this, okay, always try to get yourself aware of what's being talked about in the news and stuff, because that helps you when preparing for these kinds of questions, okay? They tend to be topical. Anyway, we're asked, write a letter to your local newspaper in which you argue for or against this statement. Guys, by the way, you might get a question like this where you have to write a letter or something to your local newspaper. You see newspaper, don't be like, oh, that means I've got to write an article. No, it's a letter, okay? Meaning you're writing to the editor, for example, of your newspaper as a letter, right? And you can even maybe brainstorm different types of newspapers. You've got The Guardian. Hopefully, different newspapers. You've got Telegraph, The Independent. Please never mention. So Independent. Please, for the love of God, don't mention Daily Mail or The Sun, okay? Just keep it classy. If you're talking about newspapers, Guardian, Telegraph, Independent are good, safe bets, okay? Don't mention stuff like Daily Mail. Don't mention any of that tabloid. Tabloid is stuff that's written, like newspapers that are written, about celebrities. The primary purpose is entertainment. The secondary purpose is actually like teaching you something, okay? So keep it classy. Either talk about, you're writing to the editor of The Guardian or the writer of the editor of the Telegraph or the Independent, okay? No Daily Mail, no Mirror, no Sun. Just don't do it, okay? Save yourself the hassle. Anyway, so this is a letter. Don't be thrown off by local newspaper. It's a letter. What are the components that go into a letter? Let's be clear on 4. Very important. What do we, and by the way, guys, for those of you that are doing resits in November, so the resit gang, 2nd of November, you're going to get a letter, okay? So obviously, they fixed it to a letter. However, those of you that are doing obviously June exams, it's probably going to be either letter or speech or newspaper article. Anyway, how is the form like for a letter, okay? So let's talk about form in a letter. There's 8 parts to writing the perfect letter. Okay, and once you kind of understand it and perfect it, this is easy. This is a walk in the park for you, okay? Start off with your recipient address. What does recipient mean? Recipient is the person that's receiving your letter. Then you move on to the date, okay? Some teachers are very old school. Some teachers say start off with the recipient address, and this is the top right hand corner, recipient address, the person that's receiving. You've got the road name and number, city, then postcode. And then some teachers who are very old school say also put your address in, okay, like return to sender. I don't think that's necessary. So I would say literally once you put the recipient address and obviously their name, add the date. Do not make up the date to be like 3022 or 2001 or something like that. Just literally keep it to the same date, okay? Or like, you know, a day or so, but just don't be too creative with that. After you've written the date, dear, make up the person you're writing to. So for example, here it's your local newspaper, we can say Editor John Smith. Okay, so it'd be dear Mr. John Smith, for instance, or dear Editor John Smith. Then you have your introduction. Do not write, I am writing this letter to blah, 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 blah. Boring. You lose marks for the entertainment factor. Obviously, you guys remember, you need to show an awareness of audience, okay? So you always need to remember that your letter needs to inform whoever's reading the letter, but of course, also try to make it a little bit entertaining. Because remember that your editor is probably going to get like dozens and dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of letters. So just write a nice, captivating introduction. A good way to open your discussion is to decide, what do you agree, do you disagree? I'm going to say I disagree. I don't think festivals and fairs should be banned. Now, once you know what perspective you take, in your introduction, start off by stating the opposite. There are many people who think that festivals and fairs should be banned. Yet I disagree. I think they should not be banned, because why do I suggest that? The reason why I suggest this, and this goes for article and speeches, start with the opposing view, then you say you disagree. You create friction. When you create friction and tension, that makes it more entertaining. We as humans are wired. Our hard wiring is we are drawn to conflict, we're drawn to passa, we're drawn to just, you know, kind of just a bit of drama, a bit of beef, right? So when you say, there are many people who think festivals and fairs should be banned, yet I disagree, you're creating a bit of tension and drama, okay? Then after your intro, you start off with your main arguments, your perspectives. And in this case, of course, as I mentioned, I would suggest writing, say, 3 arguments, one with an anecdote, one with a statistic, one with an example, totally made up of why you agree. Then you obviously go into your counter arguments. You don't need to add any subheadings. This is a letter. So counter arguments obviously are also counter statistics, counter anecdotes, and counter examples. Why people agree with you, okay? You need to show a balanced perspective. And then once you're done with that, you then obviously conclude. Don't say in conclusion, okay? You can, but try not to make it too essay-ish. Say stuff like that being said, then you close. And then obviously finish off by stating kind regards. I would say just go for kind regards because it's easy spelling. Yours sincerely, then you say your first name and surname, okay? That's the letter structure. Recipient address, date, dear whoever, introduction, your perspective, counter arguments, conclusion, then kind regards. You have this structure down, you're writing the perfect letter. So let's go back to this. How do we approach this question? I would suggest literally planning by drawing a line down the middle and then obviously on your points, right? So obviously here I'm going to say no, festivals and fairs should not be banned, but I also equally need to consider why people would disagree with me. The first reason why I think festivals and fairs should not be banned is because actually they bring communities together and they bring people together, especially local communities. And, it creates harmony, creates community harmony, right? So if you have like a local fair that always happens each year, you then kind of get to mix and mingle with your neighbors, with people that live on your road, people maybe in your local community, and this creates like a closeness, okay? That's one of the reasons, and I'm going to make up a made-up statistic. I'm going to say, so here I'm going to talk about councils, right? So let's say Barnet Council which is in North London, by the way, guys, for those of you that don't know about Barnet. It has maybe a Barnet Fair, and it brings together, 70% of local residents. Okay, so I'm going to say, according to Barnet Council, they then said, each year when we have our local fair, actually it brings together 70% of our local residents. That's my first argument why it should not be banned. It creates a community spirit. The second reason is, they give us something to look forward to. Okay, some people prepare all year for wireless. Oh my gosh, next year, summertime will be wireless. Do you know what? I'm going to have to get my body set good. I'm going to have to look amazing, blah, 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 whatever, right? So it's something to look forward to. Vital entertainment, especially in our boring lives, right? So entertainment in our boring lives. For example, so I'm going to probably talk about Notting Hill. So I'm going to actually list examples of different festivals and fairs. Sorry, guys, it's going to be a little bit London-centric, okay, because I'm a Londoner. So we've got Wireless Festival. We've got in Finsbury Park. We've got Notting Hill Carnival. Right? So these two festivals and fairs, shouldn't be banned because, for example, they really break up the tedium, the boring routine of daily life. It gives us something to look forward to. I believe Notting Hill Carnival this year, there was just crazy numbers that attended, right? I didn't go because I guess monkeypox was just kind of swishing and swilling around. However, Notting Hill Carnival was actually a really good example of how, festivals and fairs shouldn't be banned because actually it brought a lot of people together. Final reason, from my perspective, why I think no, festivals and fairs shouldn't be banned is, they actually, people when they go to a place, right, in wireless, you spend money for drinks and stuff like that. What this does, all these festivals that happen, they pump money back into the local economy, right? So you go to this festival, you go to this fair, you buy stuff, you buy drinks, it just helps the economy, that local economy. You buy from the local corner shop. It just, you really help the economy of that particular place, right? So it puts money in the local economy, right? This is really important. This is how your corner shops are operated. This is how, the local, food businesses, even maybe some people say, I'm going to get my hair done there, right? So, just it pumps money back, right? And I'm going to make an anecdote. Okay, so my made up anecdote. So I've got my statistics here. I've got my example. Now I'm going to make up an anecdote about Sally Smith, who, her and a group of friends travel up to Manchester. So she's a professional nurse. And she goes to Manchester with friends from London. Or actually, maybe, no, sorry. Perhaps actually, she goes to Somerset for Glastonbury Festival. And actually, I'm going to add that also to my example, Glastonbury. Okay, the kind of, I guess, rock and roll festival. And, she estimates that her and her friends, when they go to Glastonbury in Somerset, right? I mean, not many people tend to go to Somerset all the time, but perhaps maybe each of them spend £500 when they're staying at they're attending Glastonbury Festival. And obviously this really helps the local economy of Somerset, okay? That's my arguments for, or rather disagreeing. However, I need to show that why some people would disagree with me, okay? Naysayers, why people would say, no, they should be banned. Firstly, obviously there's always a spike, an increase in anti-social behavior. Okay. Sometimes, one of the reasons why festivals and fairs have like a really bad reputation is, people drinking too much, fights, drinking, people making noise, right? So the local residents can't sleep, graffiti, so, even sometimes vandalism, right? And maybe, for example, think about how Finsbury Park looks after wireless, or even Notting Hill Carnival, right? Complete carnage after the carnival is over. And I'm going to say, I'm going to make up a statistic and say, according to the UK website, gov.uk, antisocial behavior, so antisocials cost or create antisocial behavior as a result of festivals and fairs, they create over 500,000 in damage. So in other words, you know, the local community has to spend in repairing all of the damage close to £500,000, right? So £500,000 in damage. That's the first counter argument, right? Obviously totally made up. Second counter argument I would say in terms of like why festivals and fairs should be banned, what someone might argue, is because they disrupt local community routines, right? You've got road closures, you have diversions of buses and trains. It's just a bit of a headache for those of that may live in the local area. And I'm going to say, I'm going to make up an anecdote and say that there's a guy called John Doe who lives in Islington, the borough of Wireless, right? So Islington. And, you know, he feels like cost of living even doubled. So the cost of everything goes up, right? Because they're anticipating for that particular time that Wireless Festival is happening. You know, they're going to be lots of customers, etc., right? So costs double in his area due to Wireless Festival. Okay, so these are my arguments for, or rather against. Sorry, these are my arguments against why festivals and fairs should be banned. However, these are the counter arguments. As I mentioned, we're going to be looking at letter today. So remember to start off, because this is obviously you're writing a letter to the editor or to your local newspaper. If you're writing to a newspaper, it's usually the editor. So top right hand corner, I'm going to say I'm writing to editor John Smith. And he's at the Guardian newspaper. And I'm going to make up a road name. By the way, guys, never put your own actual address, okay? So I'm going to say he lives, the Guardian newspaper is headquartered in 1 London Way. In London. Making up a postcode, letter, number, letter, okay? This is how to write an address. First line of address is a road name and number, city, then postcode, okay? Postcode is capital letters, letter, number, space, number, letter. Then, so now I'm done with the first element of my letter, the recipient address, that's done. Now I'm going to go into the date. Really straightforward. What date is it today? To 28th of October. So I'm just literally going to put 28 October 2022. Done for the date. Now I'm going to go into addressing my recipient, the person that's receiving my letter. So this is the editor of the local newspaper. Dear editor John Smith. Keep it formal. Don't just say Dear John, okay? So I'm done with addressing him. Done. So now I need to open my introduction. As I mentioned, your introduction to make it more entertaining. Start with the opposing view and then say no counter arguments. Actually, I think this, okay? So you begin by stating, there are many people who see festivals and fairs as a nuisance. They completely destroy the lives, hyperbole, of local communities. They cost taxpayers untold sums of money due to bad behavior and vandalism. They would argue that festivals and fairs must be banned. Yet I disagree. Creating contrast. Festivals and fairs offer local communities much needed money. They give us, using the pronoun us to include the reader, the editor, something to look forward to. I would urge you to make the case to your readers. Make the case to your readers why festivals and fairs are crucial. I'm telling him to talk to his readers, right? He's an editor. So obviously I want him to, write to his readers and create maybe like an article or something, because this letter is going to local newspaper. Hey, put in the local newspaper that, festivals and fairs should not be banned. So that's my introduction done. I'm going to quickly go over it. Dear Editor John Smith, there are many who see festivals and fairs as a nuisance. They completely destroy the of local community. They cost taxpayers untold sums of money due to bad behavior and vandalism. I've used repetition here to try and make my writing more convincing and compelling. And also, if I say it costs people untold sums of money, that's hyperbole, over-exaggeration. Yet, I disagree. Brief sentence, now creating a contrast. Festivals and fairs offer local communities much needed money. Much and money, alliteration. They give us something to look forward to. I would urge you to make the case to your readers why festivals and fairs are crucial. I've started off with my introduction and made it clear. So I went into my date. Now I'm in my introduction, made it clear my perspective. Now I'm going to go into my first reason why festivals and fairs are really important and they should not be banned. Festivals and fairs knit communities closer together. They are the glue that seals bonds and friendships between neighbors. In fact, so here I've talked about knitting communities together. They're the seals. They are the glue that seals bonds. I'm using metaphorical language, okay? I'm saying it brings closer communities together. It's undeniable that they are, or they offer an important community spirit which would be destroyed if they were banned. To be sure, according to Barnet Council in North London, so now here I'm adding my statistic, 70% of its local residents are brought together at the annual, totally made up, Barnet Fair. Do you want to see this community destroyed? I think not. Here's my first reason. Festivals and fairs knit communities closer together. They are the glue that seals bonds and friendships between neighbours. I'm using metaphorical language to say that festivals and fairs bring people together in the community. It is undeniable that they offer an important community spirit which would be decimated, destroyed, if they were banned. To be sure, according to Barnet Council, made up statistic, in North London, 70% of its local residents are brought together at the annual Barnet Fair. Okay, totally made up. I don't even know if that fair exists. Do you want to see this community destroyed? Rhetorical question. Then I'll answer my rhetorical question. I think not. When you ask a rhetorical question and you answer it, this is a really powerful rhetorical technique called hyperphora, okay? Hyperphora, when you ask a question and then that's really powerful. So now I'm done with my first argument. I'm going to go into my second argument, okay? They offer us something to look forward to. Moreover, festivals and fairs entertain us. They give us something to live for. Consider our daily lives. They can be tedious and predictable. A fun festival and an adventure-filled fair breaks up the monotony of our daily lives, right? So I'm saying that it doesn't make us bored. Think of, running out of pen. This is a good example of why it's good to always have backup pens, because this pen is now officially finished. So, new pen. Now here I'm going to talk about my examples. So think of the plethora, means range, of festivals that light up our summer. Colon. Now I'm going to go into the examples. Wireless Festival. Glastonbury Festival. Notting Hill Carnival. Would or should we ban them? It would be a travesty. Travesty means an outrage to ban them, okay? So now this is the second reason. Moreover, festivals and fairs entertain us. They give us something to live for. Hyperbole, by the way, something to live for. Consider our daily lives. Now here, I'm using imperative sentence. I'm saying, editor, think about this, okay? I'm telling them what to do. They can be tedious and predictable, okay? Our lives can be a bit boring. A fun festival and an adventure-filled fair breaks up the monotony, the predictability of our daily lives. Think of the plethora, the range of festivals that light up our summer, colon. And I'm now giving my examples. Wireless Festival, Glastonbury Festival, Notting Hill Carnival. Should we ban them? Rhetorical question. It would be a travesty. Answer, hyperphora. Third reason for my perspective before I move into my counter arguments, how it puts money into the local economy. Have you also considered how much money these events pump back to the local economy? Another rhetorical question. Many people attending festivals and fairs buy food, water, clothes. They even get their hair and nails done. This boosts local businesses. In fact, Sally Smith, a nurse, admitted that she spends at least £500 each time she travels to Somerset for the Glastonbury Festival. This, full stop, capital S. Okay, so here I've broken up my sentence. In fact, Sally Smith, a nurse, admitted this, and then full stop. She spends at least £500 each time she travels to Somerset for the Glastonbury Festival. So this is my final reason for why festivals and fairs should not be banned. Have you also considered how much money these events pump back into the local economy? Rhetorical question. People attending festivals and fairs buy food, water, clothes, listing. They even get their hair and nails done. This boosts local businesses. In fact, anecdote, Sally Smith, a nurse, admitted this. She spends at least £500 each time she travels to Somerset for the Glastonbury Festival. I've added my reasons why I disagree. However, I cannot finish off the discussion until I also show counter arguments why people would disagree with me. Okay, so I need to obviously balance it out. It doesn't have to be perfectly balanced. So because I've written 3 points, I'm just going to add 2 points on this side why people would say, yeah, festivals and fairs should be banned. It's really bad. It encourages bad behavior. This is a good way to show counter arguments. Yet, naysayers, people who disagree with me, would argue that festivals and fairs cause far more harm than good. So now I'm going to go into my first reason, the antisocial point. They are terrible, festering places for bad behavior. To be sure, festivals and fairs cause a spike in anti-social behavior. It is common to see festival goers overdrink, fight, and vandalize the local area. Made up statistics. Gov.uk, this is the government's UK local website, found that vandalism from festivals and fairs costs the UK government half or even £500,000 in repairs each year. Totally made up. So this is the counter argument. First counter argument. Yet naysayers would contend, they would argue that festivals and fairs cause far more harm than good. They are terrible festering places, so terrible places where people gather for bad behavior. To be sure, festivals and fairs cause a spike in antisocial behavior. It's common to see festival goers overdrink, fight, and vandalize the local area. Indeed, made up statistic. Gov.uk found that vandalism from festivals and fairs costs the UK government £500,000, £500,000 in repairs each year. Second counter argument, going back to why some other people would think it should be banned, right? It disrupts local communities. Worse still, festivals and fairs cause chaos and pandemonium to local residents. Road closures, train and bus diversions, increased food and drink costs, make life miserable for local residents. My made-up anecdote. John, let us consider the case of John Doe. He is a resident in Islington who dreads Wireless Festival. During this time, food and drink costs in his local supermarket double. This is unacceptable. Festivals and fairs must be banned. So here's a second counter argument. Worse still, festivals and fairs cause chaos and pandemonium. Pandemonium and chaos are synonyms, they mean the same, to local residents. Road closures, train and bus diversions, increased food and drink costs make life miserable for local residents. Make a miserable illustration, also listing. So remember, as you're writing these letters and stuff, you still need to include like literary techniques, alliteration, metaphors, listing, rhetorical questions, all of that. Let us consider the case of John Doe, my second anecdote. He is a resident in Islington who dreads Wireless Festival. During this time, food and drink costs in his local supermarket double. This is unacceptable. Brief sentence. Festivals and fairs must be banned. So I've added my counter arguments. Now I need to finish off with conclusion before I end my letter. Okay, so obviously now that I've run out of paper, I'm just going to use extra paper here. Okay, so now I'm going to go into my conclusion. A good way to begin your conclusion is not in conclusion. This is still supposed to be a little bit entertaining and interesting. So you begin. So this is letter, model answer. You conclude by saying, that being said. And then obviously revisiting the original question. That being said, festivals and fairs should not be banned. Okay, so festivals and fairs must not be banned. They serve a vital function to us all. Festivals and fairs break up the dull monotony of our daily lives. Better still, they pump money back into the local community. I hope you will urge your readers, because this is a local newspaper, to support festivals and fairs. Here's my conclusion. That being said, festivals and fairs must not be banned. They serve a vital function to us all. Festivals and fairs break up the dull monotony, the dull predictability of our daily lives. Better still, they pump money back into the local community. I hope you will urge your readers to support festivals and fairs. So now I'm done with my conclusion. I literally simply end by saying, kind regards. Then your first name and surname up, Barbara and Jow. Done. Okay, kind regards, Barbara and Jow. Finished. Okay, the perfect grade 9 letter done. And guys, just to quickly recap, we're only looking at question number 5 today. Cutoff time is 6:45. And actually, guys, this is a really good example of how this timing, the 50 minutes, is really doable. Okay, so I started this live at 1:45. Now it's, I believe, looking at my watch, it's about 6:30, right? So I did this in 45 minutes whilst still waffling, right? So I had my waffle where I was talking about blah, 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 introduction, all of that stuff. So actually I did it closer to, like maybe 25 minutes. Obviously I'm experienced in doing this, okay? But what I'm trying to say, guys, is I'm not trying to show off how quickly I can do it. I'm more showing that the more you practice something, guys, the quicker you get, the faster you are in writing out your ideas, okay? So just to recap, question number 5 for language paper 2. You've got a choice of a letter, article, or speech. Those of you that are doing resit papers, remember that your resits for November the 2nd will be a letter, okay? So just bear that in mind. However, for those of you who are literally like year 11, year 10, year 9, year 8, because I do know younger years also watch this, you need to be well versed in all 3, okay? And also be anticipate that you're going to be getting statements related to a topical issue. When I say topical issue, this is stuff that people talk about, right? So, people tend to talk about every so often, oh, should we stop with Notting Hill Carnival? Should we stop with Glastonbury? Is it causing too much damage, right? This is one of the topical issues. And in this case, it's festivals and fairs should be banned. And does make sure of your letter, you follow these 8 steps to write the perfect letter, and of course then plan it out. So now what I'm going to do is read this answer through one last time. However, guys, as I mentioned, today's live is a quick one, okay? Literally cut-off time is 6:45. However, the next live, which is going to be paper 1, that's going to be on Monday. And guys, by the way, there's also going to be a paper 2 live, a full paper 2 live at 7 p.m. next Tuesday, okay? Literally from start to finish, question 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is the first time this term I've done like a full paper, okay? So that's going to be on Tuesday for those of you that want to kind of do a bit more language paper 2 practice, okay? I know that one of the polls, actually, most of you voted for that. Anyway, so I'm going to read through this one last time. So if you've got the address here, Editor John Smith, The Guardian, 1 London Way, London, SW12HB, that's the address. Then the date, 28 October 2022, keep it realistic. Then I'm now addressing the person I am writing to. This is your local newspaper. I'm probably just going to write to the editor of the local newspaper. Dear Editor John Smith, totally made up. There are many who see festivals and fairs as a nuisance. They completely destroy the lives of local communities. They cost taxpayers untold sums of money due to bad behaviour and vandalism. They would argue that festivals and fairs must be banned, yet I disagree. So now I'm creating tension. Festivals and fairs offer local communities much needed money. They give us something to look forward to. I would urge you to make the case to your readers why festivals and fairs are crucial. I'm talking about them making the case to readers because this is the local newspaper, right? So I want him to not only read it, but also maybe put out an article and say, yeah, festivals and fairs are really good. They should not be banned. First reason, festivals and fairs knit communities closer together. They are the glue that seals bonds and friendships between neighbours. It is undeniable that they offer an important community spirit which would be decimated if they were banned. Decimated means destroyed. To be sure, according to Barnet Council, in North London, 70% of its local residents are brought together at the annual Barnet Fair. Do you want to see this community destroyed? I think not. So this is my first reason, my statistic. Second reason. Moreover, festivals and fairs entertain us. They give us something to live for. Consider our daily lives. They can be tedious and predictable. A fun festival and an adventure-filled fair breaks up the monotony of our daily lives. Think of the plethora, the range of festivals that light up our summer. Wireless Festival, Glastonbury Festival, Notting Hill Carnival. Should we ban them? It would be a travesty. It would be an outrage, okay? So I've given examples in my second reason. Third reason. Have you also considered how much money these events pump back into the local economy? People attending festivals and fairs buy food, water, clothes. They even get their hair and nails done. This boosts local businesses. In fact, Sally Smith, anecdote, a nurse, admitted this. She spends at least £500 each time she travels to Somerset for the Glastonbury Festival. Third reason for my perspective. Now I'm going to move into my counter arguments. Yet naysayers, okay, which means people who disagree with me, would contend that festivals and fairs cause far more harm than good. They're terrible festering places for bad behavior. To be sure, festivals and fairs cause a spike in antisocial behavior. It is common to see festival goers overdrink, fight and vandalise the local area. Indeed, Government UK found that vandalism from festivals and fairs cost the UK government £500,000 in repairs each year, or £500,000. Worse still, so second counter argument, festivals and fairs cause chaos and pandemonium. These are synonyms. Chaos and pandemonium mean the same. So they cause chaos and pandemonium to local residents. Road closures, train and bus diversions, increased food and drink costs make life miserable for local residents. Let us consider the case of John Doe. Anecdote. He's a resident in Islington who dreads Wireless Festival. During this time, food and drink costs in his local supermarket double. This is unacceptable. Festivals and fairs must be banned. Now I'm going into my conclusion. That being said, festivals and fairs must not be banned. They serve a vital function to us all. Festivals and fairs break up the dull monotony of our daily lives. Better still, they pump money back into the local community. I hope you will urge your readers to support festivals and fairs. Kind regards, Barbara and Jow. That's really it, guys, when it comes to writing a grade 9 model answer to this question relating to festivals and fairs should be banned, whether you agree or disagree, okay? So, guys, as I mentioned, today's a quick one. However, just to be clear on next week's schedule, okay, Monday, live from 7 to 9 p.m, we'll be doing a whole language paper 1 paper, okay, like literally from start to finish. So usually I break it up, do section A in one live and then section B. However, on Monday, as kind of a one-off, I'm going to do a whole language paper 1 in one sitting, okay, from 7 to 9 p.m. Tuesday will be another language paper 2 this time, okay? So this is based on the poll. You guys really want to see more also paper 2 practice, okay? Paper 2 will be on Tuesday. Again, it's going to be like a full paper, okay? I'm going to select whichever paper. It's not going to be this one, but it's going to be another one. Probably one of the, I'm trying to think which ones I haven't yet done, yeah? So anyway, going to do literally a whole questions 1 to 5, reading through the insert, then also doing question number 5, all in one sitting at 7 to 9 p.m. on Tuesday. Literally just check the TikTok page. You're going to see like the events calendar. And of course, as I mentioned, always these lives will be uploaded to YouTube. Okay, so for those of you that don't know how to find YouTube, just go on profile again, click through to the YouTube link or whatever, and then you can click through to that. Okay. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining in. Thank you so much for the love. And next week's live will be on Monday, Tuesday. Okay. So guys, I hope and thank you for the love. I will head off, guys, and see you, those of you who are going to attend the live on Monday, paper 1. See you guys then, okay? 7 p.m.